Hello, I'm Carl Stabe, and today I have Tristan de Montebello. Did I say that right?
Tristan de Montebello, yes, sir.
Montebello, okay. The co-founder of Ultra Speaking. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Carl. I'm very excited to be on your podcast.
Okay, I know most of the time you talk about speaking, but we'll get there. But
hmm
I'm a systems guy, and I think people want to know how you've developed your leadership skills. And so much is it is communication, right? And that's a huge part of what you teach. But before we get there, is there a past system that maybe you've worked for a past boss that just fell flat, didn't work well? Something that irked you? Do you have an example of that? And what is that?
I like simple things.
Mm.
I'm a simple being in many ways. So I've tried all kinds of systems, all kinds of software to try and facilitate project management. And what I found is almost none of them work for me. Really, I went through Basecamp. I was a big fan of Basecamp for many years, and I tried to follow a lot of their methodology. And um, I'm talking a little bit more software here, but we've been using ClickUp, and we have a whole method through ClickUp that did not work for me either. I think what I found works well. Well, actually, you're asking me what didn't work well. What doesn't work well for me is any system that has too many moving parts and requires a lot of a lot of input from me as I'm going along. The systems that work well for me are systems that are self-driving.
Interesting. Can you give an example?
Well, we implemented EOS last year, and it's been a very, very powerful for our company. And what I love about EOS is it feels like it brings in just enough systems, but not too much. It's like the bare minimum of what you need. But
Mm.
for example, they have L10 meetings, and these meetings have a very, very clear structure. So an L10 meeting would happen at the leadership level in every division, and it's once a week, and you have a very clear schedule. So you'll start with good news. Everybody shares a tidbit of good news in the form of a headline, and then you'll move on to the next step. You'll review the to-dos for the past week. Then you'll have customer headlines where you'll discuss, either customer or team headlines. And then finally you'll get to this segment. So you'll go through a scorecard that's very quick and very simple as well. Then you get to this IDS segment where you're basically treating the issues at hand, and everybody in that meeting has the ability to share issues, and they'll usually do that prior to the meeting. Then the leader of the meeting will go through the issues, choose the top three, and then you'll just go through them. And what's interesting with the system is you get through what you get through. So sometimes we'll get through five, sometimes we'll only finish one, but it's always 45 minutes for the leadership level one. Then you finish, you score, and if you gave a bad score, you would give feedback on why, and we try to iterate on that, and then it's done. And so you always know that this meeting is very time constrained. It's always going to start on time and end on time. It always has this similar structure.
Mm.
And I'm somebody who's very fluid. I'm a very creative, visionary type. So I like when things are not too structured, but
Mm.
I thrive in this amount of structure, and it allows you never to go too far. But then on the other hand, not to go too far into EOS, with my integrator, I'm the visionary, Yoshio is the integrator. Once a month, we have a same page meeting, which is kind of similar. It's a little bit more laid back. But in this one, we also do IDS where we run through the issues. But we have to get through every single issue because the point is for us to be exactly on the same page, and then Yoshio to be able to go back and execute. So for that one, sometimes it'll last 5 or 6 hours, but we just keep going until we've gone through every single issue at hand. But that kind of
Interesting.
simple structure, I truly thrive in.
Mm. I love EOS and I hate EOS. And I uh, I will very infrequently recommend EOS to clients.
Hmm.
And what I found is it doesn't really, it doesn't often fit the personality of the team. And this is, I think this is that, like you said, most things it either fits you or it doesn't. And I found what EOS does is it covers a lot of the issues, but it doesn't talk about the proactive nature that I feel should be built into the systems that occur. Because often what happens, I think, is you talk about the problems and you try to, get through them, understand them, and then be able to kind of take action on them. But what I found is a lot of the human brain should be also teaching people to, in advance, talk about the things that they would like to see next week and the week after that. Because what ends up happening is you kind of get, I think, into a rut with EOS. It works usually in the very beginning, and then you start to, the structure starts to break down. What I've seen now, everybody's
Hmm.
different. And I think this is that part is you then have to iterate off of EOS to fit your
Yes.
own culture.
Yes.
So it's,
I love the principle of first copying and then bringing in
mm,
like breaking the rules. So
yes.
as we've brought in EOS, we've done it really step by step. We didn't take the whole system at once. We took pieces, and it's taken us a year to implement the whole thing. I think we might even have one piece left. But at first, we started very, very strict. Let's follow the rules. And we're not necessarily rule followers, but I like that when you're learning anything new. First, let's copy.
Mhm.
And now we've started breaking things. Okay, this doesn't work for us. The IDS version, usually you'll just throw in, anybody throws in issues and then you just define the problem and fix it in the moment. We found that at least at the leadership level, it makes a lot more sense if people spend time thinking about the issue at first, digesting it, creating a document, and then everybody
Mhm.
gets a chance to read that. And then so it's a little bit more less spontaneous, but it works better. Some pieces of IDS we're going to get rid of. So yeah,
I love that. I love that you're doing that because that's so important. Okay, so I'm gonna switch this again because I think I really want to dive into communication with you. Why does so much communication, especially in large corporations, fall flat?
I think the main culprit is that we're taught communication wrong, if we're even taught it at all.
Mm,
Like most of us are thrust into the corporate world, into entrepreneurship or more standard job, and we are expected to know how to express ourselves. But if you look at college, high school, there's it's teachers doing their best to impart a little bit of wisdom. But oftentimes I find that unfortunately we don't have the right building blocks. And that was my frustration. My whole journey is, and ultra speaking is almost a reaction to being frustrated with not having the right tools to actually learn how to communicate in a way that allows me to bring my full self to the table. So I think
mm,
the reason why things fall flat most of the time is because when we're in a corporate setting or when we're under pressure, we don't show up as ourselves. We show up as this weird Frankenstein version of something that we are hoping, by all means, we're holding on with as much control as possible and trying to perform. But it's very, very different to how we feel when we're communicating at our best, which is usually in lower stakes scenarios with our good friends or in situations where we feel really comfortable. So we're trying to be two people at once and it doesn't work.
interesting. Okay, so let's break that down a little bit. How do you work on that?
If you see somebody expressing themselves masterfully, the temptation is going to be to copy what you see on the outside. So I'm watching somebody speak and I hear them use a certain sentence. Or I'm asking myself, why do they always have the right word at the right time? And I notice they use their hand in this way. Or when they're speaking to me, they look into my eyes and I feel that it's so powerful. And when you notice those things and you associate that with somebody who's doing it masterfully, the temptation is to say, I'm going to try to move my hand in the way they move their hand. I'm also going to try to look in people's eyes and I'm going to count. I'm going to pay attention to how much time they're spending looking at that person and I'm going to use it. I'm going to try to break down the way they answered that question and see if there's a framework underneath that. And I'm going to learn that framework and I'm going to try in turn to apply it. But what you're doing when you're doing that is you're taking the you're taking the kind of the lagging effect. You're taking the consequence of something, not the actual cause. So you're copying the wrong thing. What you have to be curious about is what state did that person need to be in that they would be able to look at me and connect with me while expressing themselves? Why didn't it throw them off? What state did they need to be in that their hands started moving naturally and that they didn't feel so confined in their chair like I do? What state do they need to be in, or what mindset do they need to have that they're able to be so comfortable in the moment when I am so stressed? And so if we start reverse engineering that and start trying to think, what are the root causes to the symptoms that I'm seeing? And can I go copy the root causes? Then naturally, the symptoms, what's going to come out is going to be what I was seeing. These people that look so natural when they speak.
So you have to peel back these layers to really understand that this person feels comfortable and is able to express him or herself comfortably because they feel comfortable with the content, they feel comfortable in their own skin, all these things. And when you do that, then you're more likely to convey your message in a clear and whatever term you want to use, exciting, compelling, in a compelling way.
100%. So a more crunchy example maybe would be, say we use a visual one where somebody is just consistently drawing you in with their energy. You might look at them and think, what are they doing? Well, their volume is going up and down. Their body is moving. Their hands are moving in a certain way. And so if you try to copy that, you're going to say, okay, while I speak, I have to make my volume louder, and then I have to make my volume that, and then I have to move my hands like this. And what that's doing is it's giving you more things to think about. And the enemy of speaking is thinking about speaking. Speaking is a flow state. It's a subconscious state. So the more anytime you're actively thinking about what you're saying, you're pulling yourself out of your flow state and you're performing at a lower, underneath your potential. Instead, what can we think about? Say, okay, this person is so animated about what they're sharing. What do I need to do myself to feel animated about what it is I'm sharing? If I'm excited about what I'm sharing, if I think what I'm sharing with my audience is fascinating, super interesting, crunchy, then naturally I can allow myself to get excited about it. And there's nothing more exciting as an audience member than to watch somebody speak about something they're absolutely fascinated about. They can't wait to share with you. And if you're tapping into that kind of a state, then naturally your volume goes up because you get excited and then you get a little pensive and the volume comes down. But you wouldn't do this consciously because then you're trying to manipulate your audience and it's going to come off wrong. It's going to come off as artificial. Instead, you're internally focusing on being interested, getting excited yourself about the content you're sharing. And you can train this. We have tools where the way we train it, it can be trained in many different ways, but the way we train it is using tools to, as you speak, change your energy levels. And so you might go up in energy, and we're going to have numbers on the screen. That's the way we do it. And we call it conductor. And as the numbers go up, you have to bring your energy up. And when the numbers go down, you have to bring your energy down. And you want to do so in a way that where you're truly connected to what you're saying. And now, sometimes this can come off as woo-woo. You might think, hey, I'm a VP at a huge company. We're publicly traded. I don't know that I want to be thinking about being animated. I need to perform. But the reality is, if you're in that position, you're already good at your job. You know what you're talking about. You are the subject matter expert. And so what I expect from you is to show up at that level. And that's where communication comes in play. It's like, think about a great tennis player like Federer, who shows up at the tennis court and he has all the skills, he has everything he needs, but when he shows up, he's second guessing himself. He's constraining himself. He's not letting loose. If you imagine all of those insecurities actually taking form, then he would lose every single match. There would be no way he could play. So this is this same idea. We're trying to get into a peak performance state.
Okay, so the system I'm hearing is you really have to have you have to have self-awareness. And in that
Yes.
self-awareness, you are often then able to allow yourself to relax and perform where people feel very drawn or comfortable, even magnetized to you because you aren't worried about every little thing that you're trying to convey. You are speaking from the heart. Am I
Yes.
reading that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. You're speaking from your whole being. It's your entire being must be in it. You can't half-ass speaking. That just doesn't try to do it halfway. It doesn't work. It'll never work. This is every time you speak up is a performance, but it's a performance in the sense that you have to be all in. Now, again, if I use a sports analogy, if every shot Federer is taking, all of his attention is on trying to control the shot, trying to think about how he's swinging his arm and where he wants the ball to land, he's going to fumble every time. The state he's in is one of, it's probably playful. He's probably almost, he's having these almost out of body experiences where he's so completely in flow that he's not even there. He's not thinking about the result of the match. He's not thinking about everything that's happening around. He is laser focused on this one point, in it, feeling his body, feeling the rhythm of the ball, the court, and looking for cues that are going to pop out. So what happens when you're speaking, the fundamentals that you're trying to learn are a series of habits. In order to be able to perform at this level, what we found is that especially top performers who have found ways around it and are still able to communicate, otherwise they wouldn't be in those positions, they are just forcing their way around it. And what that looks like is a series of bad habits that are holding you back and a series of lost opportunities. So great habits that you can build in, or systems if you want to see it that way, that allow you to constantly fall back on your feet. Because the only way you can let go and get completely into flow is if you are 100% convinced that if you were to fumble, you would be able to recover gracefully without people really picking up on it. Once you have that knowledge in your mind that I know because I have so many reps of this, that even if I were to fumble, I'd be able to fall back on my feet and most people wouldn't even notice it in the first place. then you can truly let go. And that's when you get at your peak performance.
This is this is interesting because I think no matter what people struggle with, communication is usually at one of the things at the top of the list. Very few people are like, yeah, that's easy for me. And I think some of the smartest people really struggle with it because it comes back to your point of if you're trying to push a square peg through a round hole again and again and again with each passing sentence, it becomes back to your point of not a very simple system. It becomes cumbersome. It becomes something, this
Yes,
juggling act that you're trying to do. And in that process, these balls eventually will drop. And even if it's not literally a drop, even if it's something where it feels a little robotic, right? Or it feels a little bit off, you said all the right words, you conveyed it, but you didn't truly convey what you needed to convey because you didn't truly connect with it.
exactly.
I
Exactly.
feel
That's very,
like,
very well said. And I was, yeah, go ahead.
no, go, please.
No, I was just thinking of, I had a call with a YouTube expert just a few hours ago, and this feels relevant because he was saying the thing with YouTube videos is that if you make the effort of improving a thumbnail by 10%, or improving your title, your ideation by 10 or 20 or 30%, or even doubling the quality of your video, you stand to gain 10x or 100x or 1,000x more views. It's not linear. And I think in communication, it's similar in that when we're limited, if you're performing at 80 or even 90% already, those last percentages, they're not just going to add 1% to your performance. It can be the difference between you becoming, becoming the VP, or getting the buy-in for that idea you were absolutely looking for, getting the influence that you're looking for, rallying the troops, hiring the right person, right? Connecting with that person that you absolutely need. The difference can be an order of magnitude in the trajectory that your career is going to take.
Okay. Yeah. And I think as I'm trying, because as you're talking, there are parts of me that I'm like, oh, I sidestepped there. I didn't really fully connect with that. And I think this is not an all or nothing, right? Because if you can bring, let's say you're at 70%, you really, you feel really good about a lot of parts of your talk. I still think back to your point, even if you increase it to 80, you don't need to be at 100. And I think this is the part of that people often get tripped up with systems is it almost needs to be perfect, right? Like this talking, I
Yeah.
need to practice it and practice it and practice it. And then you end up getting so overworked or over exhausted with trying to make it perfect that that in itself, like Federer, then he gets almost caught in his own head and now he's making mistakes instead of getting to that, 80, 90% level and allowing that sometimes it will peak above to 90, 95 and allowing, because I remember when I saw you speak in Boise, there it wasn't perfect, but the energy was there and I believe it was one of your co-founders was there with you, and he was basically trying to trip you up a little bit so they could see how you could recover.
Yeah.
Am I right in that?
Yeah, it wasn't my co-founder, but yes.
Okay,
Yeah, that
so
was an
so
example. That was actually an example of Conductor, the game I was describing earlier. That's this tool for accessing different energies.
so, and as people are trying to do this, I think the idea of a feedback loop, having a system in place
Yes.
that allows them to understand what's working for them and what's not. Because often I can look at myself in the mirror and I can see my hair's out of place, but I can't necessarily. I guess I could record myself, but even then, often we don't like to hear the sound of our own voice. We don't. like how we moved our arms, but it's not us that's judging us in the audience. It's other VPs, other CEOs, and they're not as probably not as critical as we are of ourselves. So it's
Yeah.
getting that, creating that feedback loop. So do you have a system for that? How do you, try these things out, practice these things, show how you can be in flow and create this type of talk where people resonate, but it's not so robotic.
Absolutely. That's the very essence of our entire philosophy. I'll give you a very, very short story of how I got here. I actually signed up for the World Championships of Public Speaking with zero experience, just as a learning project. And I ended up making it to the finals of the World Champions, 30,000 people from 140 countries. And the way I did so is by outworking everybody and getting much more feedback and many more reps. I just went out and every day I was speaking in front of a new audience, testing out new ideas, and I would record myself. I would ask feedback from every single person there. And then the next day I would watch it all, look at the feedback, analyze it, choose what I was going to change, choose what I was going to discard, and then go to the next audience and test the new thing. So the way I got here and the position I am in is 100% with this system of short feedback loops, immediate application, not too much. You don't want a lot of theory. You want enough theory. Pat Flynn talks about this in his new book, Lean Learning. But you want just enough theory of what you need in the moment to implement it. And then you just keep that loop going. And all of our trainings, what we do at Ultra Speaking, all of our courses are very much focused on in the moment speaking, spontaneous speaking, because that turns out to be 80% of what we do, at least. The prepared talks, that prepared presentation, that's just a sliver of our speaking. And so everything we do is in the form of short reps. They're short as 10 or 15 seconds, all the way up to maybe 2 or 3 minutes for the longest ones. You get the rep, you get feedback, and you immediately apply it again. And so you're constantly with other humans putting in these loops so that our system is very, very, very focused on consistently getting feedback. And if you're doing a talk, it's the only caveat I'll bring. The thing is, some people give presentations every week or multiple times a week. Unfortunately, a lot of people who struggle with speaking are the ones who are starting on their journey. So they're in a stage of their career where now they have to give more presentations more often. But it doesn't start with 2 presentations a week. It starts with one big presentation at the all hands once a quarter. And when that happens, how do you get in the reps? And that's more difficult. And that's where having a playground where you can go train with other people on all of the fundamentals of speaking around it can really support you. But the one hack I would give anybody who does do this is the fastest way, the only real shortcut in speaking is finding how you can feel like yourself as quickly as possible. And if you have that as a barometer of, I'm not really feeling like myself right now, I can guarantee that you're not performing at your potential. When you're feeling like yourself, I know, okay, at least we have your center of gravity is in the right place. And one way you can do that if you don't have a lot of opportunities to get a ton of reps in is don't prepare the beginning of your interaction. So for example, when I walked up on stage in Boise, I was very careful not to prepare the first minute and a half, or let's say the first minute. I knew where the thread was. I knew what my first slide was. So I knew what I needed to grab onto once I was launched. But I wanted to walk up on that stage, look at the audience, and naturally be able to react to what was happening there. And in doing so, I was able to feel very genuinely like myself. And I think I might have even cracked a little joke or something came out that was very not polished, but very me. And suddenly I feel like myself. And now I'm good. Now I grab onto the first slide, I jump into the thread, and I have my anchor. I'm solidly rooted into the ground. So in a more casual meeting, that might look like asking a few questions, getting a sense of where people at before you start speaking. And then you say, okay, so let's get started. And at least you're anchored into yourself. When you can do that, you're already leagues ahead of most people.
That's fascinating. I like how you talked about, that first minute, right? It's this little system. Now, I will say, and I'm gonna be play a little devil's advocate. I
Good.
think that takes reps and time to even get to that point, right? Because I'm thinking about myself. So I'm 49 years old. I feel comfortable enough now. I am not a great public speaker, but I've been doing this podcast for 5 years. I've given talks on stages, and I'm not great, but I'm good, and I feel like there's that. It took me a while to feel comfortable enough not to not to have that comfort or that thing where I need to feel like I need to jump in right away and like almost have everything planned out, even from that first second that you walk out on stage. And I think the people that are listening right now, and it depends on your age and depends how often you speak, that doesn't come. You can't unplan that first minute because they could be standing there like, oh shit, like what do I say here? So how do you get to that point, right? How do you get to, do you maybe not plan that first 5 seconds? Like, what's the system around that?
So it really depends on the environment you're in. I'll say the short answer is like get practice. The speaking is a skill. Just like any sport, any other skill, anything, speaking is a skill. What does that mean? That means you can train in the gym and you can get good enough that when you go back out into the world or do your sport, you're going to be stronger, right? You can do the reps. You can shoot the ball 100 times. There are many ways. A bunch of the ultra speaking games are free. You can do it on your own. You can just hang out with one of your coworkers, your partner, a friend, and you can train. Just do reps of trying out whatever you're trying out, but do it in a way, think about it as if you were training. If you're not going to follow our curriculums and you want to do it on your own, then how would I break that down? I would think about training. So if there's something that I'm weak at, then I'd want to do it many, many times. Let's say I struggle to pause. Pause is one of the foundational skills of speaking. If you can't pause, you're going to have a higher tendency to ramble. You're going to have a higher tendency of being unclear because you won't be slowing down or stopping in order to gather your thoughts and connect with yourself and get insight. You'll have a tendency of running after your words and speaking too fast. So learning how to stop, learning how to pause and breathe and relax in that pause is a key skill. If you can train it. You can just speak and then have the person in front of you tell you when you have to pause, and then you have to pause. We have games that allow you to do that, but you can learn how to do that yourself. But all of this to say, putting in the reps is doing the right thing, learning the right thing and putting in the reps is the quickest way to be able to approach any situation with ease. With that said, if someone listening to this is going into a meeting right now and they have a presentation, what can they do in this moment? Assuming they haven't had the training prior. It depends who you are. If you're the type of person who has extreme anxiety and your biggest fear is that you're going to blank, then I would actually, if I were coaching you, I would recommend you learn that first sentence completely by heart. Because the moment it's your turn to speak is going to be your peak of adrenaline. So I would recommend you have that sentence in your mind. With that said, I would say do everything you can leading up to that first sentence to interact with people, to feel like yourself. Anything it is, even if, let's say you're not the one running the meeting, so you're sitting down or you're somewhere, right? And you're only going to have the moment it takes you to get up from your chair and walk up in front of everything before starting your present in front of everyone and before starting your presentation. Then in that moment as you're walking up, see if you can ask somebody a question. See if you can break the ice for yourself in a while projecting confidence. You can even comment to the person who's walking down from the stage and ask them a question. But allowing yourself to break the ice will allow for the borders to soften. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Because what you're saying is give yourself the tools that you need to really be able to process the situation. And everybody's different very much. Like if you have anxiety, like I remember when I was in high school and I gave a speech, I would click. I would be like,
Yeah.
and it was awful. And my friend was like, what was that? And I didn't even realize I did it. Right. And I'm glad he pointed that out because it made me become that aware. That was like my junior year. Didn't really do a lot of public speaking. And then, just through reps, through, working, going to Toastmasters, talk about having this, group of people. I did that every week for like, I think it was like 4 years.
Nice.
But yeah, that was huge. And so I really like that system. You're saying design a system where you feel comfortable. If you need to memorize that first sentence, fine. But if in that just a little bit before, even if it's just like when you get up there, smile, and even in your own head, and I try to do this, I thank the audience for being there. And that just allows me then to be outwardly grateful versus inwardly fearful of what they were thinking of me. It just allows me to stop, break that, and say, I appreciate them being here. And I appreciate being able to be up on stage and give them that information. And
Yeah.
so I love that. And I think that to me is kind of maybe even moving on to that next part of what I wanted to talk about because your methodology leans heavily into gamification. And I think what you're saying is these little games we play with ourselves inside of our own head can really help us relax. Because, we cannot say there is, and I truly believe that anxiety, that stress can often be a good thing when you have the right frame of mind of, like instead of saying stress or fear, you say excitement. This little switch of like, I'm excited right now. Yeah, that's why I'm able to lift my voice. And that's why I'm able to stand up on stage, even though I'm a little worried about what they could be thinking of me. I'm also excited to be able to share what I know, to be able to give what I can give to them. And that to me is something that I have to appreciate. And so if you can talk a little bit about the gamification of this and how we can use these tools that you're saying to really be able to connect with our audience. Do you have any other internal tools that you can share with us?
Yeah, we have a bunch. I think gamification is important. Um, we're not, you can use gamification to create like addictive behaviors, right? To create these loops and streaks and ways for people to come back to your product. That's not how we think about gamification. The way we think about gamification is you can treat a skill, learning a skill as a chore or as something enjoyable that you naturally want to come back to. And in my opinion, speaking, because it's a skill, is just a game. So if you learn how to play it, I can teach you some of the rules and I can show you how to play it. It actually becomes extraordinarily fun. And if I can make speaking fun for you, the practice of speaking, then you're going to want to do it a lot more. And you're going to start seeing the results at work and at home and with your friends and at networking events and on a stage. And you're going to want to do even more of it. And suddenly it becomes a game. And if you think about it, when you look at people who seem to really have it, who are just like so incredible at communicating. It looks so easeful for them. It looks so
Hmm.
fun. It looks like they're having the time of their lives, no worries in the world. But that can be you. That should be you. That should be every single human on earth because we all have the same hardwiring. We are born to communicate. So when we think about gamification, the first piece of it is what I was sharing earlier, is these small reps, and we make them in the form of games. So I'll give you one because there's a concept I was wanting to bring up a few times. It's the concept that people can't see what you feel, or people
Hmm.
can't see what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And this is something that a lot of people have internalized, but a lot of us still have bad habits around here. What we tend to do is when we walk up on that stage and the first thing we think if we have the wrong mindset is everybody can tell that I'm nervous.
Hmm.
And that's just
I've
shooting
I've
yourself in the
I've
foot.
I've thought that. Yep.
You've thought that. We've all thought that. We've all thought. I no longer think that. That used to be baseline for me.
Hmm.
Everybody thinks that I'm nervous. They can tell that I feel like an imposter. And then when I start speaking, if I say a sentence wrong, in my mind, it used to be everybody knows that I said that, and everybody is thinking, "Whoa, what's he gonna do next?" Because that was a really terrible sentence, or
Hmm.
everybody. And I'm thinking my audience is my enemy, and I'm thinking my audience is looking at every thought that's going through my mind. And when I panic, I think they can tell that I'm panicking. The reality is otherwise. You can choose, first of all, to see your audience as your friend, to see your audience as your ally. And this makes a lot of sense when you think about it. An audience is very empathetic in the sense that they will feel what you are giving off, the energy you give off. And so if you walk up on that stage, when they sit down, they're they're like a blank page. And if you start projecting your insecurities out into the world, then that's what they're feeling. Suddenly they're receiving all of your insecurities and your nervousness and your second guessing and all of those things that you're giving out freely, they're taking in. And so their blank page is turning into this nightmarish drawing of insecurity and anxiety. And now everybody's freaked out in the room, everybody's stressing. You can do the opposite. You can realize that, hey, if I don't share my insecurities, and I keep them for myself, then I'm going to look confident. Because human beings, when you see them around the world, they look confident. Just think about it. When you're in the meeting where you think you're the only one who's nervous, is there really a high probability that you're the only one who's feeling nervous? No. Every single person there has moments where they're second guessing themselves. Your CEO, everybody, when they have moments where they're feeling insecure. The difference between the person who's struggling and the person who's thriving is the one who's thriving is staying in character, or we call it not leaking. Well, we call it staying in character, but another way of thinking about it is not leaking your insecurities out into the world. And coming back to the gamification idea, the way we train this is we have a game that's called Analogies Rapid Fire. And it's a super simple game. We have two random words that show up on your screen. And it'll be like, a bicycle is like a tree because. And you'll see that sentence, that beginning of a sentence on a screen. And you'll have 3 to 5 seconds, depending on the difficulty of the game, to complete the sentence. So you have to read it out loud, which already takes up a second or two. And then you have to complete it in the last second you have with whatever pops in your brain. So life is like a bicycle because you just have to keep on going. You need the momentum. A tree is like the sky because they're all made of matter and you just keep going like that. And what happens is you will, without a doubt, say something that sounds dumb to you. You are going to fumble. The game is made to make you fumble. But what we're learning through this game is once I've fumbled, and my mind is saying, everybody can tell that I fumbled. Everybody thinks I'm a fraud. I'm the worst at this. All of those things that happen in the meeting or on the presentation stage. What can you do? How do we train in those moments to keep that for myself? Can I keep those insecurities inside? And can I just say something with conviction?
Mm.
And if I'm able to dissociate what all of these thoughts that are happening internally, that are probably not the same thoughts that my audience have, even most certainly, can I keep them internally and instead project conviction and confidence, which is just a choice. It's a switch you turn on or off. And when you do enough reps in that way, you realize once you get the feedback that people can't tell, that nobody
Mm.
could tell what was going through your mind. And as a result, you start a very virtuous cycle of building that confidence of, oh, I can show up anywhere with this level of conviction and this level of confidence because people can't tell. And when you start showing up more confident, they're empathetic. They feel that. So they feel the confidence, they feel the projected ease, and
Mm.
they start to relax. And you can feel that they start to relax. So you get to relax. So everybody gets to relax.
Mm.
So that also ties into what I was sharing earlier. When you can blend in your personality and mix it in with the all of your deep preparation that you've put in, you get to relax, which makes your audience relax, which makes you relax
Mm.
more, and everybody gets to relax. And now you can confidently talk about this content that you are already an expert in, that you know well.
I love that. It's funny. I just remind me of a internal game that I play with myself. But I know we're coming up at time here. We also have to do the 5 minute
Oh yeah.
system segment. This has been so much fun. Like you bring such great energy.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Carl.
And
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm loving
where
this.
where can people go to find out more about you?
We actually put a little landing page up for you. It's ultraspeaking.com/Carl with a K. So your first name. And if the listeners go there, they'll be able to download we have a mini course, like a mini email course,
Hmm.
where we run through the system that I'm about to share you're mentioning here, called the accordion method, and what I just shared about this game and staying in character. All of these, I think it's a sequence of 5 emails that will allow you to go through just the fundamentals of what we teach at Ultra Speaking, and even, I believe, give you access to, we're running a free tester course where you can kind of go in and actually play the games for yourself with other people in very, very small groups, like 2 to 3 people, and a coach running it. So you get to get a sense of, hey, what would it look like if I started stepping into this, if I started leveling up my confidence and got to a level where I could really fill in my potential as a communicator.
I love that. Okay, everybody, go check it out. Those are probably. I think I actually I joined your email list
Oh, nice.
while we're in the workshop. So
Nice.
I think I've already read a lot of those emails.
I love it.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Ultra
Go.
speaking is just how you would pronounce it. ULTRA speaking.com/Carl.
Cool. Thank
Nice.
you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for the grace in allowing me to share this.